everybody. Today I thought I'd come to you today and talk to you a little bit about what it's like to adjust to life living abroad. Stay tuned. Hi there, and welcome back. If you're new to my channel, my name is Kelly, and I'm an American who moved to Denmark 4 years ago. And I have to say that I have always wanted to try living abroad. I've lived in different places in the US, but living abroad was always kind of on my bucket list because I really enjoyed learning foreign languages. But when it actually came to moving, I had a lot of difficulty, a lot more than I thought I would. And I thought that I would make a video to discuss with you a little bit about how some people have a really good transition when they move to another country and how others don't. There's no right or wrong way. Everybody has their own unique journey when it comes to moving to another country. And I'd like to share with you a little bit about what I have learned about the differences between people's journeys and how it helps them or hinders them in adjusting to a life abroad. So if you like this idea, please go ahead and click the like button. So don't forget to subscribe. Okay, so let's go ahead and get started. So first off, your situation is going to be different from other people depending on the circumstances that brought you to this other country. Maybe you're coming here to study, you're coming because of a job, maybe you're coming because you met someone and you want to be together. There are a lot of different situations for bringing you to another country. In my instance, I came with my husband who got a job in another country. He's actually from Denmark, so it wasn't so much of a transition for him to come back. Obviously, it is a transition moving for everybody, but for him, he didn't have to learn the local customs or language or get used to the foods or any of those types of things that I had to adjust to when I moved here. Your situation obviously is going to be different. Maybe where you move to, there will be groups that you can join. Maybe it is a group for internationals with your company or in your region, or it can be a group of spouses. I know that in Denmark, there are spouse communities where you can join to meet other spouses. Maybe you have similar situations of why you moved to your new country, and it's a great place to network. Another instance is the company. Are you moving alone? Are you moving with your spouse or a family? These are things that are really different with regards to people's experiences. I moved with a husband and 2 kids, so it's not just me trying to explore what life is like. I have responsibilities that others might not have. For those of you who are moving by yourself, perhaps to come here to study, it might be kind of lonely because you don't really know anything about the culture and you don't have anyone to show you the way. It's very important to be able to find people who can kind of help you out with your transition. It's maybe just a phone call to ask a question or to have someone to meet with occasionally for a cup of coffee. I know that for me, even though I moved with my husband and my 2 kids, I was still kind of alone because my husband went off to work right away and my kids started in the daycare a month after we got here. We wanted them to learn the language quickly, and we knew that that was the best way to do it. I was able to start language school not too long afterwards, so I was able to meet other people. But had that opportunity of going to language school not been there, it really would have been lonely for me. And that is one thing that I would say is kind of universal with people moving to another country, is that there are these bouts of loneliness, no matter if you come with people or if you come by yourself. That kind of leads into my next thing, is that the connections that you leave behind. I'm American and I have a very strong American family. We're close, we would meet often, we were very involved in each other's lives. And when I moved to Denmark, I didn't have that close-knit family. My husband has family members here. They don't live very close to where we live, so it's been difficult. I haven't had family support. Growing up, I've always been very close geographically to my parents and my siblings. So I've been able to use them as kind of a resource. If I was going through a hard time, if I needed someone to talk to, if I really just didn't want to be alone for an instance, maybe there was something going on and I just wanted to sit in my parents' house and have a conversation with one of them. You know, I don't have that here. And I know that there are a lot of people who don't have that here. But there's also some people who come in reverse. They don't have a very large or a very close-knit family in the countries where they come from. And they come here and all of a sudden they have all of these people to support them, all these people around to help them out. And so they kind of weigh their situation and say, well, I've gained in this instance moving abroad. But I have found that from talking with a lot of other Americans, that the experience that you have adjusting to a new country really depends on the type of relationships that you leave behind. Yes, you know, we all have family, we all have friends. There are things and people that we are leaving behind when we move to another country. We weigh these pros and cons when we are making this big decision. But I have learned from my talks with other people that if they go from a strong, close family connection and they move to another country, they find it much more difficult to transition. And I know this was the case for me. No matter how much effort I put into it, how much networking I did, how many videos, how much outreach that I did to try and make myself feel like I was a part of Danish society, that I was the missing piece to this Danish puzzle, and I fit right in. As much as I tried for that to be my reality, it wasn't. I had a lot of down times, a lot of sad times, a lot of times where I felt like I just don't fit in and I don't belong here, because I was so used to a feeling that I would get being around my family. That is something that still makes it difficult for me sometimes to live in Denmark. And it's not an issue that can easily be resolved when they say, well, why don't you just move home? This is my life now. This is my home. And I need to find some way within myself to feel okay with the relationships that I have here now, with the relationships that I will be creating, and somehow using those relationships, not so much to replace what I left behind because it's still there, but to feel that it is the equivalent of what I felt that I needed in my home country. I've noticed that other people who have told me that they aren't very close with their families back home, that they didn't really get together very often. They don't feel the sense that something is being left behind, that there's something out there that they long to get back. It's a very weird kind of thing to explain, but imagine, you know, one thing or one person that you're very connected to right now and that you have to live apart from them, or you have to live apart from that thing. You're going to have this kind of sense of longing that you want it back in your life. But if you never really had that strong connection to begin with, it's so much easier to kind of leave it behind and start new in your new country. That's something that I don't think a lot of expats even understand, of how we are different from each other. And with knowing that we do have these differences, I think it could help us communicate better with each other. And it could help us understand each other's experiences and journeys, instead of just saying, oh, that person isn't trying hard enough, or that person just doesn't really want to live here, or maybe that person is just kind of an angry, upset person. That's not the case. There's these other things that need to be taken into consideration, that we are not the same people. We're all different shapes, sizes, colors, and whatever. That we live on this planet. Of course, we're going to have different ways of adjusting when we move to a new place. My next thing that might make it easier or harder, I guess depending on your situation of moving to a new country, would be which part of the country you're moving to. If you are moving to an area where there are a lot of foreigners or a lot of people from your own country, you might feel right at home with where you're going in this new place. In Denmark, there tends to be a lot of foreigners living in the bigger cities, and I would probably say that's true of a lot of countries. But I live in a small town, and there are other foreigners that live here in Denmark, but they are not American. So I can feel some sort of connection with these other expats, but I don't think that they see this situation as I do. They've maybe moved a few hours away from one country to another in Europe. They haven't packed up and flown across an ocean. I think that it's very different in that case as well, knowing how far away you are from your family. There are people that I have met from New Zealand and from Australia, and it's very difficult for them to go home all of the time because of the distance that they have between. So I know that living in a community where you have other foreigners makes you feel not so alone, makes you feel not so different. No matter how much you try to integrate into your new country, there's always going to be that feeling that you aren't exactly a part. And that could be a feeling that you have. It could be a feeling that you're sensing from other people. But I know something for me personally that I really enjoy being around other people who have lived the same type of experience as I have. So I know that when I'm feeling a certain way that might not be at my best, I'm understood for, yes, I know this is not an easy situation. Transitioning to a new life can be hard, and it's nice that I have other people. But for me, I have to travel a little ways to find some of those other people because there just aren't that many in a small town. I know for me, it's easier to transition to a new country like Denmark if you learn the language. And when you learn the language, you get to understand what people are saying. You get to be a part of the conversation. You might not understand their humor. You might not understand the meanings behind some of the things that they say, and that is probably something that will take time. But at least it's not something that's blocking you off from transitioning. Learning the language is very important. Are there people who move to other countries and never learn the language? Yes. It could be that some of these people don't see that where they're moving to is their new forever home. Maybe that's why they're considered expats, because there's this feeling that you may be going back home at some point in time, and home being your home country. For me, we didn't put a time limit of how long we're going to be living in Denmark. I don't know if this is my forever home. I don't know if it's my home for the next few years, but I am thinking of it as long term and trying to do the best with integration. My children speak fluent Danish, and that was something that they had to learn when we moved here. And it has really helped them be a part of the society. Wherever we go in Denmark, they can communicate with adults and other children. And it feels good for me as a parent that they are not limited by their language the way that I am. My Danish is okay. It could be better. But I know for me, I have always loved learning languages. But for some reason, I have more of kind of a negative feeling sometimes when I try to learn Danish because it feels very impossible at times. And it's very much the truth. I've been a foreign language teacher my entire career as a teacher. And I have always loved the idea of learning a language. Whenever I've traveled to another country, I've tried to learn a little bit of that language to communicate with the locals, to feel that you kind of fit there. And for me, I don't know what it is about Danish, and it's so difficult for me. And I think it has to do with the next part that I want to mention, and that's really just changing your mindset. It's easier for people to live and to move to another country if they have the right mindset. And maybe that's something you've heard a lot of, or maybe you've heard nothing about. But a mindset really is just putting yourself into maybe a good mood or a good way of thinking. and saying, you know what, I'm going to fit into this place. I am going to learn the language. I am going to make friendships. I am going to have a great transition, and I am going to be integrated, and it's all going to be wonderful. It's very difficult to stay in a mindset like that sometimes, in my opinion. I wouldn't say that I am a negative person all the time. I am a person who likes to look at things from all points of view, but I can get pretty upset sometimes. I can let things affect me, which is part of being human. But I know that if I kind of started my day with a better attitude, things might change for me. And I need to adjust more. I've lived here for 4 years. There have been a lot of ups and downs. You can read about a lot of those on my blog. I mean, the first 3 months, that seems like such a scary, post that I wrote. It's almost like, man, this girl needs to go back to her home country. And the fact that she's lived there for 4 years after writing a post like that, that's amazing. But for me, I know that it's a learning game. It's a learning game all the time. I'm learning a little bit about myself. I'm learning a little bit more about Denmark. I'm learning about how to do the things that I would normally do in this country. There are so many things that I just stopped doing when I moved here because I just let my husband take care of it. And that's not who I am. I've never been like that. And it's so limiting sometimes to feel that it's my mindset that's holding me back. And it's me that is making it difficult for me to transition into a place. And when I look at other expats who are having such a wonderful time, and I'm thinking, what pill did they take? And why didn't I get any when I moved here? Because it seems almost something that has to be drug-induced, because I can't even imagine being at that level. And it's not to say that I'm at rock bottom. I'm at a pretty happy state. But to look around you and see the wonders of everything and not have to worry and not feel self-conscious and not have any of these negative feelings or any of the sadness about being away from your family or the things that you just really didn't realize that you loved so much that you can't get. Especially during the time of Corona, when you've been forced to stay at home and you've been forced to stay away from people, and you're not really sure when you're going to be seeing your family again. And there is just a lot of factors in there that make things really, really eminent that you have to adjust. You have to change your mindset when you live in another country. It's really up to you. The next few things, it's easier to transition if you don't take things personally. Again, that goes with your mindset. It's also easier to transition if you get out. Don't be the type of person that stays in your house unless you're social distancing. But it's really important to get out, even if you're just walking around your neighborhood. Get to know the houses. Get to know the faces of the people who live in your neighborhood or the people who live in your apartment building. Get to know the stores in your town. Get to know these things. I know that for me, it felt very emotionally crippling in a way after a while because I didn't know where to go to buy clothes for my kids, or I didn't know where to buy certain things. And I thought, I'm just going to wait until we go back to the US to visit. Then we'd have these huge bags coming home every single time. And I kept thinking, I need to learn where to find these things. And if it's not here, I probably don't need it. Maybe I could make some sort of alternative to it. Maybe I could adjust somehow. But it's really important to get out. Fresh air, sunshine is something that will do you a lot of good. I know for me, I took a lot of bike rides when I first moved here, and my kids went to daycare and my husband went to work. And I wanted to know where all the paths went. And I wanted to find playgrounds to take my kids. And I wanted to see what was in all these different shops and what kinds of things I could get. I wanted to take my time when I went shopping and not have some kid saying, Mom, I'm hungry, I have to go to the bathroom. And then my thought patterns would be completely interrupted, and then I would have to be focusing on someone else. And it's not always about me, which is very difficult when you're transitioning to a new place because you have to focus on other people if you're a mom, or if you're a wife, Or if maybe you've got a job that's very demanding in your new country and you don't have that much time. After we had lived here for a few months, my husband actually didn't know where to find certain things or what stores were even in the neighboring town. But I did because I took that time to do a little bit of exploring. So make sure that you're getting yourself kind of involved in what's around you. Try also to take on some of the new norms of your new country. It can be trying out the foods that they love to eat for supper or for lunch. It can be trying out some local places that people like to go. Maybe there's something that you've heard about. You know, people are always saying, oh, well, we rent a summer house. Well, maybe try renting a summer house. Or they talk about going over to the coast if you don't live anywhere near a coast, like I don't. Well, try heading out to a coast. Try see a different part of the country. If you're doing some norms, maybe you're celebrating a holiday and you're like, okay, well, I'm not Danish and I don't really know a whole lot about this holiday of Fastelavn or about St. Morten or St. Hans or any of these others. And a lot of those you can read about on my blog. But you know, you can just try it. You can read about it online. You can ask someone about it. And just try some out of these new norms to see how they fit into your life. And I know that it's going to feel awkward. It's going to feel awkward to kind of change your routine. But if you want to have a better chance of adjusting, you have to leave a little bit of you behind in order to move forward. And I know that for me, that's very difficult to do. I really am happy with who I am. I'm really proud of the person that I have become. And when we left the USA, I was feeling fantastic, in terrific shape. My health was wonderful. I had great friendships and I was very close to my family. And I think that I just felt that all of that would transition to a new place. And I wasn't really prepared for the fact that being without some of these connections and networks and people and familiar places and familiar things would really affect me in the way that it did. So it's so important that you create your new norm, your new routine, your new network that's going to give you that kind of happy feeling, that hygge feeling that you would get if you were in your home country. It's creating kind of anew with new places, new people, and new things. But don't lose sight on who you are. It's so important that you remember who you are and where you came from. But it doesn't mean that you can't adjust, and it doesn't mean that you can't change. With any type of move, there will be some change. And it's not to say that change is bad, because there may be some good things that come with this new you that you create once you move abroad. I wish you the best of luck. If you'd like to learn more about my experiences moving to Denmark, you can visit my blog. I'll put a link down here and in the description of where you can go. The Living Abroad section, I have a lot of experiences that I share with you, and there's also some helpful information if you are moving to Denmark that I have on there as well. Thanks for coming along on this video, and as always, take care.